Somewhere around the year 1300, God had a big idea. I will allow mankind to see me, he thought to himself. I will inspire artists, great artists, the greatest artists of all time, to paint my glorious story. It's been almost 13 centuries since I sent Jesus to earth. It's been over 6 centuries since I talked to Muhammad. It will be 5 more centuries until I speak to Joseph Smith. This is the perfect moment to visually bring my story to life. Now, it's over 1,000 years later, many years since God has ended the world. One day, feeling bored, God finds himself wandering into his heavenly art museum. The museum is massive, filled with paintings that God had angels bring up to heaven just before he destroyed the earth. God enters the first room of the deserted museum and stops, gazing up at the ceiling. He does not gasp, because gasping would imply that he is surprised, and nothing surprises God. He knows everything, he always has. Still, what he sees is impressive. Michelangelo was a genius, and his Sistine Chapel paintings are, in a word, magnificent. The moment of creation, as portrayed in the separation of light from darkness, is splendid. Let there be light, God had commanded, and this was that moment. Beautiful. A small smile passes God's lips as his gaze shifts to the separation of the earth from the waters. God loves the way Michelangelo portrayed him flying forward, dressed in his finest lavender robe, spreading his mighty arms and commanding, "Let dry land appear." I look so strong, so confident. Even better is the creation of the sun, moon, and plants. God adores the way Michelangelo has captured the moment he created the sun and the moon. I look so incredibly dynamic. The sun goes here, the moon goes there. I don't even need to look at the moon to create it. That's outstanding. God remembers this day vividly. I remember grooming my beard and pulling it down into 2 parts, giving it a Fu Manchu kind of look, he thinks. I do wish the angel behind me hadn't chosen that exact moment to try on one of my headscarves and grin about it. I'm also not 100% sure why the angel next to him looks dead, but those things don't matter. What matters is that I look mighty, stupendous, and awesome. But then Michelangelo had to wreck the whole thing with a rear view of the same action. I didn't want people seeing my butthole, God seethes, staring up at this image. I mean, yes, I did have a nice shapely bottom. That part Michelangelo definitely got right, but why did he need to show it? I wanted mankind to fear and revere and worship me, and oh, look, it's God's butthole. One thing that Michelangelo did get right was that, yes, God did in fact wax his anus. The hairs there are pointless and annoying, and all they do is hold on to feces, God growls. God's gaze now moves to the creation of Adam. What a moment. What an achievement. That face, that mouth, those eyes, that physique, that... Wait, no, not that penis. That was not what Adam's penis looked like, not at all, not in the least. It looks like the penis of a baby, God hisses under his breath. It's pathetic. Adam, the first man made in God's image, and he would appear to have a penis the size of a peanut and balls the size of sunflower seeds? And the idea that people might think like father, like son when they looked at this painting, it enraged God, because that was very much not the case. And the truly infuriating thing was that not all the men Michelangelo painted in the Sistine Chapel had small penises. Only Adam, made in God's image, had a shrimpy one. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Another thing God despises about the creation of Adam is how damned crowded his heavenly cloak is made out to be. It looks like I have a dozen angels near me in a space the size of a broom closet. It's so crowded that it looks like some of the angels are getting crushed. One of them appears to be dead again. That angel on the far right, he really galls me. He's a fat-faced, bug-eyed little twerp. Why didn't he get crushed? Also, not that it matters, because it doesn't, but my nipples look too big. Feeling slightly irked, God's gaze moves to the creation of Eve, and his lips instantly curl downward. I look annoyed about making her. And you know what? That's because I was. Eve was going to ruin everything pretty much instantly, and I knew that. I remember thinking as I looked at her, what do you want from me, woman? I allowed you to exist. That's all I have for you. Deal with it. She gazed at me so pleadingly, like, please help me, Father. Please tell me what I should do. And my answer to her is, there's nothing you can do. You will turn bad instantly and be the cause of all human evil and suffering forevermore. Sorry. I will say this for Eve. She had very strong arms. She looked like she lifted weights. I appreciate that. But there's something else about this painting that bothers God. Why is my hair blonde? Did I color my beard and hair when I created Eve? Before that, I was all gray. Why was I a blonde when I made Eve? I look a bit weird as a blonde, I can't deny it. If I thought it would look good, I was wrong. Or maybe I'm wearing a blonde wig? I think maybe I am wearing a blonde wig. But what the hell is it made of? Moss? God now turns his head slightly to look at the fall of man. I knew it, he murmurs to himself. I knew it the whole time. Of course, Satan was a woman. He could look like anything, yes, because he was a shapeshifter, but what he really was a woman. This was his first appearance in the story, and there he was. On the positive side, God quite likes the way Gabriel is chasing Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. That is hilarious, God chortles to himself. Eve is so scared it looks like she instantly aged about 40 years. She looks like an ugly old crone. I love it. Incidentally, what is wrong with her breasts? I am no breast expert, far from it, but there is definitely something strange about hers. Also, Adam's hair looks weird. It was so luscious when I first made him, and now, is he wearing a wig too? Now God turns his attention to the final act of this story, the Last Judgment. God appreciates the way Michelangelo has portrayed Satan as the ugly, sneering figure he is. A few questions, though. Why exactly is Satan sniffing that gorilla's head? What is that gorilla doing in hell anyway? Not that God has a problem with a gorilla going to hell. He most definitely does not. God hates gorillas. But most importantly, and most perplexingly, why does Satan have an enormous penis? Because it definitely looks like he does. What, so he can have sex with that gorilla? Though, the truth is, Satan would be exactly the person to have sex with a gorilla. Gazing at the thoughtful-looking skeleton near the bottom of the image, God shakes his head, instantly irritated. Why is that skeleton stroking his chin? He has no brain. He literally cannot be thinking of anything. Also, why is he wearing a robe? You don't need to dress a skeleton. There's nothing there to see. It's often bothered God that Satan has better employees than his. This isn't a new feeling. But that guy on the boat, Charon, with his big wide eyes and his crazy hair and his elf ears and his utterly fantastic mustache, why didn't any of my angels have mustaches like that, huh? Charon looks confident. He knows he has a great mustache. No one has to tell him. How can I lure Charon away from Satan? Because that is a man who loves what he does and also takes great pride in his appearance, because I'm telling you, not just anyone can pull off a mustache like that one, okay? Only a man with true flair. God now passes through a room which is dominated by several more paintings of him. He stops before Filippo Lippi's Annunciation, which he finds in a word, vexing. I hate the way Lippi paints me hiding in the rafters and flinging a bird down at Mary. I didn't do that. For one thing, flinging a dove into Mary's womb wouldn't have created a human son. It would have, if anything, created a sort of dove-human hybrid, which would have been a short-lived abomination. This painting makes me look like a creepy, insecure idiot. God moves on to Piero della Francesca's Annunciation, and he instantly shakes his head. I don't like Mary's attitude in this painting one bit. Nor do I like how tall she is, nor how short Gabriel is. But what I dislike most of all is how fatuous I look, like some sad, dim bulb wearing a plate on his head and releasing It's not even a dove. It's just what? Some green blob of energy into the air? This is completely wrong. Stopping before El Greco's Annunciation, God nods and strokes his beard thoughtfully. I like this painting overall. For one thing, I'm not in it looking like an idiot. But I can't understand one thing. Why does Mary have her hand raised that way? As if she's saying, please stop. I don't want to hear what you're saying. Also, Gabriel was not that pretty. He was handsome. All angels were handsome. They were not feminine. They were also, by the way, not heads on wings, the way they were sometimes portrayed. Heads on wings. What kind of a grotesque idea would that have been? I want some angels that are just heads. No, baby heads. No, fat baby heads. Ugly, jowly, balding little monsters with wings sticking directly out of their necks. God now stops and studies Lippo Memmi and Simone Martini's Annunciation. Why does Gabriel look so pissed? Why does everyone look so pissed? Why does no one seem to like the role they're playing in my magnificent story? Mary looks like she's trying to avoid Gabriel. She's glowering at him. She's scowling. It looks like they're about to start insulting each other. Mary's body language couldn't possibly be more eloquent. Leave me alone. It's like she hates what Gabriel is saying to her. I chose the wrong girl, briefly crosses God's mind. But that's followed by, well, who would have been the right girl? Honestly, who would have wanted this role? Give birth to God's son, who will then be brutally murdered in front of you. Who would want that role? I forced it on Mary, and that led to deep unhappiness. I screwed this up, just like I screw everything up. My judgment's bad. I created a completely fucked up situation, just like I always seem to do, and that's what these artists are capturing because they see it. God stands for a moment in motionless silence, and then slowly turns into what he calls the Jesus wing of his museum. Gazing at Hugo van der Gogh's Adoration of the Shepherds, God instantly asks himself, why exactly did Mary put baby Jesus on the ground? First of all, it's undignified for the Son of God to be laying on the ground, but second of all, it was December, it was cold. Did Mary not care if baby Jesus got sick? Everyone else present, including the angels, is dressed in warm robes, and she puts a newborn on the ground nude? Why don't any of my angels help him? Why do they all just stare down at him like he's some kind of a little freak? The only one who seems to have any empathy at all is that donkey, and I hate the way Mary gazes down at my son with that, what am I supposed to do with this thing look on her face. Robert Campion's nativity is even worse. Baby Jesus looks dead. He looks like he's having convulsions, like he's making guttural sounds, and in 3 minutes someone will say, we lost him, Mary. Pick him up. Care for him, woman. That's my son. Why do you dump him on the ground like a piece of garbage? Do you not want this child? Roger van der Weyden's St. Luke painting the Virgin makes God shudder. Baby Jesus looks shriveled and brain damaged, like a sad little cancer patient with a week to live at best. Wrong, God announces. Jesus had over 30 years to live before I was going to strategically have him murdered. I hate the way baby Jesus' fingers are splayed out and that dim little smile on his face. As for Leonardo's Madonna of Carnation, this one repulses God. Baby Jesus looks possessed. Look at his eyes. They look like they're rolling up into his head or his hands. They're like old man hands. They're so withered and shrunken. They look diseased. Looking at Jean Fouquet's The Virgin, God shakes his head in disbelief. I don't even know what to say about this one. First of all, baby Jesus was not a weird little mechanical man. Secondly, those demonic little angels, why are they red? Did they come from hell? Also, not that it matters, but these angels, or whatever they are, have some of the worst haircuts I've ever seen. A receding hairline with a perm in back? What could possibly be worse? And thirdly, Mary looks honestly perverse. She looks like she's in the middle of some weird S&M game. That look in her eyes, there's something kinky going on with her. Or maybe she just looks lobotomized. Was her head shaved so their brain could be partially removed? Is that what that black semicircle on her head is? Peter Bruegel's adoration of the Magi literally turns God's stomach. The adoration was nothing like this. Jesus wasn't a circus act, the amazing miniature man, and Mary wasn't selling glimpses of him to deeply creepy people for an offering of food. "Please accept my offering of goat's testicles and blood, madam." This is hideous. Pietro Perugino's family of the Virgin disturbs God in a whole different way. Such a nauseatingly fat child, and so smug about it. Wipe that self-satisfied smile off your face, you blubbery little tub of goo. You won't look so smug in 30 years when you're being crucified, I can tell you that. This baby Jesus, he looks like he weighs 35 pounds. He's a behemoth, an ugly behemoth. My son was not 2 tons of fun. I didn't father a gross, blubbery little turd. I simply did not. The tiny babies were at least touching in a poor preemie laying nude on the winter ground kind of way. This jumbo baby Jesus was just distasteful to God. "Oh, come on," God rumbles as he stomps past Giorgio Schiavone's Virgin and Child. Baby Jesus did not have a bubble butt. How does a baby even get an ass that big? I don't think it's physically possible. Also, my son didn't have that dim, thick look on his face, nor did he wear a bad wig. This kid was going to save mankind? And those angels, what a couple of bottom-of-the-barrel types they are. Sad losers. Cheap little musical instruments and rope belts. Pathetic. The crude, hulking baby Jesuses definitely offended God. But now he hits a painting where baby Jesus seems vain, and God doesn't like that either. Looking at Albrecht Dürer's Madonna with the Siskin, God shakes his head. It's like baby Jesus stripped off his little gown just so he could show off his buff little body. And he's not only buff, he's also oiled up, like he's competing in a hottest baby contest, which from the look on his face, he's pretty damned confident he's going to win. As for Mary, she once again looks like she had a lobotomy. And there's also the issue of her massive right hand. She looks like she could palm a basketball, God cries in dismay. God now stops in front of Piero della Francesca's Madonna of Senigallia and instantly asks himself the obvious question. Why is that asshole behind Mary wearing a spacesuit? Is that an ancient astronaut? Did I send an ancient astronaut to Earth to meet baby Jesus? God despises the smugness of this ancient astronaut. As for this baby Jesus, what the hell gives with that necklace? It looks like he time-traveled to 1973 or something. Did he choose that necklace? What is it, coral? It's awful. It makes him look like a little new age guru, and if he's wearing it to ward off evil spirits, well, sorry kid, it won't work. And what about that hand gesture? I wish you all peace. He was a baby. How would he have known how to do that? He wouldn't have, and he didn't. The truth is that hand gesture is mine. There I am, making that exact gesture, which I came up with, the 2 fingers of the right hand up, the mixture of sort of hey and peace. I came up with that. When baby Jesus did it, he was basically, I don't want to say ripping me off, but you know what? He was ripping me off. Moving on to Andrea Mantegna's 2 Madonna and Child paintings, God exhales in disgust. Baby Jesus looks brain damaged. He looks like he needs 24-hour care, like he has microencephaly, like all he could say was, through a mouthful of drool. And Mary looks like she knows it, and maybe feels vaguely sorry for this sad little creature on her lap, but would probably take the first opportunity to get out of this situation and get herself to Rome or some other happening city. Who would want to raise that thing? He doesn't look like he's going to save the world. He looks like he's going to end up in a group home. No, 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 God thinks, now looking at Carlo Crivelli's Virgin and Child. Jesus was a beautiful child, but he didn't look like a little fop. Look at him in his little sandals with his pert little nose and his little dress and his big feminine eyes. That is not what my son looked like. Jesus was all boy. Oh, but God was obsessed with gold and incense and pomegranates and testicles. God's femmy, and that's why his son is too, right? Wrong. I am super manly, and so was my son, and this is outrageous. In Lippi's Madonna and Child with 4 saints, the saints look concerned. This is the Son of God, they all seem to be thinking? This pig-faced little monster who looks like a young Goldfinger? God feels himself tensing up as he approaches El Greco's Capilla de San Jose. This painting is laughable, he instantly thinks to himself. Jesus and Joseph did not have this kind of a father and son relationship, and even if they did, it was only because it would have been easy for Joseph, because he wasn't the boy's actual father. I made Jesus to be a human sacrifice, and that was hard for me, but you know what? I did it because I love mankind so very, very much. I'm his father, but damn it. The way Jesus touches Joseph, like he's thinking, my father is tall and strong and masculine, and my father loves me, and I love him. This painting is bullshit, God hisses as he stomps away. Even worse bullshit is Bartolome Murillo's Heavenly and Earthly Trinities. This painting, and there can be no other word for it, is an abomination. Look at the contrast between Joseph and me. Joseph is young, handsome, virile, paternal, wise, while I look like a senile old grandpa popping out of a window to do what I always do, throw a bird at someone. I look like I escaped the old folks' home, like I wear adult diapers, like I'm the embarrassing old uncle whose robe opens to reveal his saggy butt. This is abhorrent. Turning to El Greco's Trinity, God nods, briefly cheered by this painting. Yes, I remember this moment very well. I flew down to earth, pulled Jesus off his cross, and held his dead body in my arms. It was a powerful moment for me, moving. But as usual, as always pretty much, there was something in this image that bothered God. The way a couple of those fucking heads-on-wings angels had snuck into his robe and were moving around down near his feet at this moment of profound seriousness. It was such an important moment that God had worn his favorite hat, the one that looked like 2 obelisks. Also annoying to God was the way that stupid dove was there, hovering above him, trying to get in on the action. Honestly, that dove was one of the worst ideas I ever had, and I acknowledge that that is saying a lot. Hans Holbein's Dead Christ genuinely horrifies God. It had seemed like such an excellent idea to have Jesus killed. What finer way to make the world a better place than to have your own son brutally murdered? But the reality of the situation, well, it's hard to look at. Seeing Jesus laid out that way, so lifeless and cold, it's absolutely ghastly. I could have created any reality I wished, and this is what I wanted? Why? What exactly is wrong with me that I planned this moment? Peter Paul Rubens' entombment is even worse. Why does Rubens have to show Jesus' wounds like that? They're horrid. And why is Mary looking up at me with that accusatory gaze, like, why did you kill our son? What kind of monster would do such a thing? You have no basis for judging me, Mary. I will not be judged by you. I am perfect, and therefore killing our son in this way, yes, in this specific way, was perfect. To repeat, perfect. The final painting in the Jesus wing is Fra Angelico's Holy Face. And this one stops God in his tracks. It's like something from a nightmare. Why did you kill me that way, Father? Jesus' face demands. It was the plan, Jesus. But why did you kill me that way? I said it was the plan, Jesus. But why did you kill me that way? The bloody eyes, they really got to God. They were both dreadful and riveting. God finds that he can't pull himself away from this painting. Something went wrong with my plan, he thinks to himself, staring at it. Something went terribly, terribly wrong. But what was it? The answer to this question, of course, is obvious. Satan. Satan is what went wrong with God's plan. Satan is the one who ruined everything. In Duccio's Temptation on the Mount, Satan is portrayed as all black, with bird's feet and wings, spiky hair and a beard. He also appears to be approximately 400 feet tall, towering over Jerusalem alongside the equally giant-sized Jesus. That is not correct, however. Satan is not the size of a skyscraper. That is wrong. In Stefan Lochner's Last Judgment, Satan looks like a fat rhino who, for some inexplicable reason, has a rather confused-looking face in his belly. But what would be the point of having a face in your belly? That's not scary. That's just bizarre. This is wrong, too. God isn't sure which character is Satan in Marx Reichlich's Last Judgment, but he strongly suspects that it's that figure strutting around in the black metal thigh-highs. Does Satan think he's sexy? Because he's not in the least, and you're not sexy, you're not cool. No, this image too is wrong. In Giotto's Betrayal of Judas, Satan looks like a rather appealing dog, with an attentive look on his foxy face, standing on his hind legs. No, this is 100% wrong, God seethes. In Jan van Eyck's Crucifixion and Last Judgment, well, once again, God isn't totally sure which one is Satan, but he's pretty confident that it's the skeleton. And this seems plausible at first, but it raises a question. Does one enter hell by a Satan skeleton either giving birth to or pooping you out? Because neither one of these really makes any sense. Skeletons can't give birth, and they most certainly can't take a dump. No, this is incorrect as well. The Satan skeleton is quite limber. God does have to admit that as he moves on. Fra Angelico's Last Judgment and Winged Altar portrays Satan as a kind of bull-bear hybrid who has 2 extra mouths to eat people with. Is that what Satan does? Consume people? God asks himself. Is he like that demon bird in Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights, forced to eat humans and then poop them right back out, alive and fully formed? In other words, not digesting them at all, getting 0 nutritional value from them, just having the humans fall right through their body? That seems strange too. As for Bosch's version of Satan in his Last Judgment, well, the glowing red eyes and the sharp fangs and claws and the forked tail, they all make sense. But why would Satan appear to have a portal to hell in his stomach when he's already in hell? That makes no sense. I don't think any of these images of Satan make sense. Why does my story never make sense? Why does it always look so feeble and half-baked and laughable? I don't understand. On the left side of Bosch's Last Judgment is one more image of God himself. God steps closer to the painting, studies it, nods. Yes, this is me at the very beginning of my story, up in heaven. I remember it well. Then, his gaze lowering, God tightens. But why just below me is there a giant air battle taking place, with pink angels fighting blue demons? I just created reality, and more or less instantly a war broke out? And I just sit there like a big lummox doing nothing, totally useless while warfare rages all around me? Why wasn't I fighting? Why wasn't I shooting demons out of the sky? Why was I just sitting there looking like such a hapless dud? I wasn't a hapless dud. This painting is wrong. All of these paintings are wrong. I am not a joke. My story isn't laughable. I am God, and I am fucking amazing, and my story is fucking profound, and I am fucking sick of this stupid fucking museum. Storming out of the building, God suddenly stops, instantly enraged. Why is that painting still here, he demands. I've gotten rid of that painting again and again. I have stomped it. I have burned it. Why is it still here? The painting is Bernardino May's Charlatan, and God loathes everything about it. The way the people all look up at that pompous, bearded old charlatan as he holds forth. I look nothing like that man. And why do I keep staring at this painting and allowing it to upset me? I am literally the furthest thing from a charlatan. A charlatan lies and makes false claims. I make no false claims. I do know everything. I am all powerful. I am all good. I always have been, I always will be. God yanks the painting off the wall and he stomps on it for a good long time before stopping and staring down at it in silence.